This week on the 77% Street Debate.
We can see that human rights violations are still occurring. Children are still being forced into these sites.
Do we give up hope? Do we say the diamonds should be left untouched? We have to mine the diamonds.
The government agents
That are supposed to be protecting.
supposed to be challenging the companies to deliver. They are colliding and colluding into this operation.
Hello and welcome back to the 77%, the show for Africa's youth. This week we are in Koidu. This is Sierra Leone's rich mining district. And in this country, you will find literally anything from coltan to iron ore and diamonds. But it is extracted and very quickly exported. And so today we want to find out, are those exports translating to wealth for the young people who live here? Who better to answer this question for me than fellow Sierra Leoneans? And we're going to begin with Ibrahim. And I just want to get an overview from you, because I've often heard it say that, had it said that minerals and riches, natural riches, particularly for Africa, can be a curse. What do you think of this? Is it a curse?
Well, I think very contrary. Minerals cannot be a curse. Endowments are meant for beneficiation, are meant for development purpose. It's all depends on the type of talent people have in a given sovereignty.
Let me hear from Aya here. He's a student, but he was also mining and in the mines from a very young age at 14.
For my own story, when I was 14 years old, I was going to school. I was around a junior secondary school in Sierra Leone. I was giving this kind of support to my relatives whom I was staying with back then in order for us to see how we can get our livelihood. It was very difficult, it was very challenging, because as a young boy, I had to skip school by then to go to the mines to give support, because that was the only source of livelihood we had. And even onto that, I barely escaped that particular period, not falling out of school, because a lot of colleagues whom we were in that stage with, whom I started schooling with, because of mining activities and because of, the effects of mining activities, they were unable to further their education. Today, a good number of them are dropouts. So if we look at the impact of diamond mining to youth, and the wider population in Sierra Leone, for me, it is much of a cost, because we are not getting the kind of dividend. We are not getting the kind of profits.
Okay, and by the way, we should mention that where we are right now, there's a big mine that operates just beyond this mound. And what we are seeing is a byproduct of that blasting rocks, which are then crushed into smaller pieces by the women we're seeing in the background to then be sold to construction workers. So I'd like to hear from the mayor, because we've heard that this region, despite its riches, is not reflective of the diamonds and the gold that's coming out of this region. So I'm wondering why.
You're right. The reflection of the natural resources we have, you cannot actually tell whether the diamonds, the golds, and other minerals extracting from Kono, whether actually this is a place where those minerals are. But on the contrary, to say mineral or diamonds or whatever mineral given to us is a cause, it's not a cause. The availability of the natural resources is not a problem. It is a proper utilization of the mineral resources that has a problem. Policies around extraction of minerals, these are the problems. If we have a good governance system put in place, how to extract, and even if there is a political will to bring those machines, those technologies, how to transform those raw materials here into a finished product. Actually,
let me just bring in Sulaiman here, because you spoke of policy, and he is from the National Mining Agency, the body that is supposed to enforce policy and also create it around the extractive industry. So is it right what the mayor is saying, that we just have a lack of that leadership from national level?
Leadership, I can show you from 2018, that the willingness is there. Now, what the agency is focusing on mainly is to see the communities where these minerals are coming from, they benefit from them. So they've ensured that the communities do sign the community development agreement with the communities, so that at the end of every year, their gross annual revenue, some percentage come back to the community. They have their committees that deals with these funds to ensure that projects are being implemented in the
Hold on, AI is already disagreeing with you. Ooh.
Yes, if we look at what mining companies are getting from Kono District, from the minings that they are doing, and we compare it to the impact in the communities, it is not commensurate. Even the community development agreement that they say they signed with those communities, the amount that is getting back to those communities, it can undertake no tangible development project. Look at the communities. For example, we are very close to one community, which is a relocated community, which is a resettlement. This community lacks water. They are not having access to electricity, and they are very close to this mining company. So what are we talking about in terms of communities benefiting from the mining?
What does the Sierra Leonean government say about who mines, where they're allowed to mine, how much comes back into the community?
water. That's a problem everywhere now. But these settlements, they are doing their best. You have areas that do not have water, but every now and then, these problems comes. We tell the people, this is the problem of the people, this is the problem of people. So it's ongoing.
Yeah.
They are trying to address most of these issues. We know there are issues.
The mayor is raising his hand on that side, but I want to hear from Mary for a second, because you grew up in a place that has been mining for a really long time. In fact, some of the earliest diamonds were discovered where you grew up. Did you see this reflected as you were growing up, you know, that yes, we have good agreements with the... Oh, you're already shaking your head no. Okay, go ahead, tell me.
Before this time, I think there was a better system in place. Many people benefited from it before even we were born. I think we heard of the benefits that our own parents, even our grandparents, we are benefiting. So for the fact that mining or diamond as a resource being a cost to us, I personally disagreed with that, first of all, because God cannot bless you and in turn curse you again. It is we the individuals, it is we the leaders, our leaders up there, what actually are they doing in order to see that their children yet unborn are benefiting, or they will be benefited from these mining companies or from these resources.
All right. I want to come to Patrick here, because he's actually wearing a shirt that says ethical minerals. And what Mary has touched on is really important, that previously there was a system that worked for everyone. But of course the war came, and so the term blood diamond and conflict diamond arose. To what extent did the war change and shift the way people think about extractives in this country?
Before the war came, I believe the awareness is not there, but now we have the awareness. With the youth are coming up. So we went to school. We are encouraged to go to school. So now that we are encouraged to go to school, we want to see that thing translates. If the company comes to do this necessary needs for the communities,
okay,
for them to...
All right. Let me speak to Issa here for a second, because we're hearing that, look, the policies are amazing. It's just the implementation that sucks. And I've heard big companies being named here, but you as a small-scale miner, are you one of the people who is deterring development from happening, perhaps because of bad employment practices?
You know, I deal with a lot of people. I had almost 50 miners, people working for me under daily circumstances. They've got kids they cannot even feed. They've got kids they cannot even take to the hospitals. They sleep in houses wherein they're cramped and crowded with no mattresses whatsoever. They sleep on the floors. And
but surely, Issa, isn't that because you're not paying them enough?
No, we pay them. When I got here, as an example, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say, we were paying the miners 70 cents per day. I thought that wasn't enough. We pay them $1. And when the diamond comes out, it's theirs. They tell us how much they want for it, and we negotiate. So we're actually supporting them to make sure they can get on the field and work.
I want to come back to Aya for a second, because I want to understand, you know, I think for people who don't live or come from places where there are mines, the imagination is that you come in, you mine for 2 days, you get a diamond that's about 50 carat, and then your life is set. But what's the reality?
Well, the reality, it is on two spears. For example, if you're doing artisanal mining previously, like about 2 or 3 decades ago, some people will say, by then I was very young, and maybe I was not even born, 3 decades ago, they'll say like they'll leave their parents or wives at home and say, let me go to the mines and go and take diamond and come. But looking at the trend now, for the past 1 decade now, that has changed eventually.
On average, how long would an artisanal miner be at the mines before they're able to extract something meaningful?
So there are some people, if you ask them from stories, they will tell you that I've been mining for the past 3 years and I've not gotten a single diamond. Some people tell you I've been mining for the past 3 years. The diamonds I've gotten from the mines, it is only worth about $50.
Okay, let me hear from Benedict here because he's actually a very busy man. I was joking to him earlier, but he's actually embroiled in 8 lawsuits active against big mining companies because of various reasons. So is what we're hearing from Aya reflective of what you're seeing in your profession, that it's the big mining companies who are raking it big, whereas the communities are basically going with nothing?
I cannot specifically speak to these matters because they are subject to judicial proceedings, but I will just reflect on the facts that have been arising out of this debate.
Yeah.
Communities are calling out and saying we've been oppressed, we've been abused by mining companies, and they are not respecting the laws and policies as articulated by the leadership of this country. But most worrying, it is not the communists' behavior that is worrying to the communities. It's their leadership attitude towards their oppression and suppression and exploitation. That is what worries them. When we consult with them in chamber, this is what they always raise. Mm-hmm. And the problem we have also is that if that is the persistent matter that we take to court, and in the circumstances, the communities are saying, instead our leaders side with us, they are siding with the companies.
Let me go to the leader that we have here, the mayor. You knew I was coming for you. That's why you're laughing. So we're hearing that when people come to you and say, hey, these guys are here, they're doing 1, 2, 3 to us, you're really not caring about it. You're more concerned about the investment rather than the welfare of the people in your community. True or false?
Well, when you look at the mining policies in this country, one, it is not done at the local level. Our parliament in this country, they formulate those policies at the legislative level. The leadership I have, like the local council level of leadership, if you ask me, I think I will stand with the people, the view of the people, because imagine myself as a mayor, when we meet at some quarters, other people will say, the mayor from a mining rich community, and he has a lot of money, the council has a lot of money. But it will surprise you to know that since I became a mayor in 2018, we've not received $10,000 cash from any mining process in this particular community.
But give me a second. Let me come to Sulaiman. How is that possible, given that the act is very, very clear? 1% of proceeds from mining companies should come back to the communities.
Well, the percentages are not static. It depends on the company. Now, like in Konodi Street, we have 5 large-scale mining companies, but only 2 are productive now. For every stage, every step you want to take, they have their consultants. They call them, they do environmental social impact assessments to see what and this affects the community. They present them to the company. Quarterly, we have the Natural Minerals Agency board. They come, they do inspection, they see what and what is not going right with the company. They give exactly a picture where they are, and then where they are going to, and then where they are from, and then where they are going to now.
Okay, let me hear from Benedict.
Yes, I think the point the NMM Sulaiman is pointing out reflects our communities who are fighting against oppression, the attitude of government and political leaders.
So the
government agents
that are supposed to be
supposed to be challenging the companies to deliver to the communities. They are being indicted by our communities that they are colliding and colluding into this oppression. It's a serious issue. It's a security issue. And you look around here. These are the people who own the lands where the diamonds are mined. They've been reduced to the utter level of poverty, -0 poverty level. Instead of having their children go to school, go to universities, go to hospitals, have good infrastructure. Look at them. The children below 10 years are smashing stones dug from the rubbles of the diamond mining of octogenarian type, one of the best quality diamonds in the world. And they cannot see it. It is not accounted for. No one knows what is taken there every day.
Let me ask him.
Ask him that question.
Let me ask
Let him declare to the people.
So, because earlier you did say that, to be fair, that percentages are not static. But are you able to track and trace how much is being extracted?
Okay. Now we are still, NMA has mines compliance officers inside there. They work on 3-shift basis. What the mining, the company gets, they package everything, they sign, they seal it, they ensure that it is being sealed, and then kept into a safe.
Yeah.
Every day on 3-shift basis.
So in the last year or so, based on what the mayor is saying, you want to tell me that what has been exported, 1% of it does not amount to $10,000?
The enemy calculates what they've exported, and then they have the percentage, 0.25%, that comes back to the community, for which the CDCs, they've got their accounts. Those money they are not being sent into the paramount chief's account. They have the CDC, the committee implement committee has their own accounts. We ensure that before the start of the use of the money, they identify projects for which they want to implement.
Okay, what projects have been I mean, I'm sure that is beyond your scope, but I'm just trying to see, if you put money into an account and you never see the results, why keep putting money into the account?
That's why I'm telling you now, they've built 3 secondary schools, 2 secondary schools and a primary school. And then there are 2 ongoing projects, one a health facility as the Yadu community, and the staff quarter is completed.
Yeah, I want to come to Issa here for a second, because you've recently returned from living abroad. Have you seen any dramatic changes since you've been away?
I think, to be honest, Sierra Leone is the only place you come back to, you never get lost, because everything remains the same, whether it's in Freetown, it's in Bo, so there has been no changes whatsoever. You know, the question would be, is Diamond the thing that's going to bring that change? For me, I'll say no. Because we've seen over a century, perhaps, that diamond has made very little impact. We see other countries like the Gambia, Senegal, they've got no diamonds whatsoever. As a matter of fact, they got peanuts. So for me, I don't know if the answer to Sierra Leone's problem is minerals.
And yet you're in the business.
I'm in the business because I see there is a bit of an opportunity. I can make changes in people's lives. I help communities. I support people. I spend money on a daily basis. I employ people, direct employment. As a matter of fact, I've got close contact with people in governance. And what they say is, we need people like you that are making direct investment, direct employment. So I'm happy to be back home doing whatever little I can do. I see a lot of experts around me. They know what's going on. They know what the problems are. Maybe they need to be engaged a lot more. Maybe there's that sense of responsibility by everyone to make sure we can all make an impact.
All right. Unfortunately, Issa has to leave because he's a busy man. He's got to sell diamonds. But we still have the panel here.
Let me say to the last comment the other gentleman said about diamonds is not an answer. Diamonds is an answer. A short while ago before we come here, I Googled diamonds in Sierra Leone. I saw blood diamonds. I saw diamonds wrecking lives of people. I did the same, diamonds of Botswana. I saw diamonds lifting, transforming Botswana. I saw the policy in Botswana. Instead of having Octia Mining, a company registered in Virgin Islands, owning 100% of London mining shares in Sierra Leone, and taking over the mines and Octia diamonds of Sierra Leone, literally presiding over the wealth of Sierra Leone diamonds, Botswana said, no, we have what we call the Swana. That is, the beer and Botswana, the state, owns the mining company that mines and polishes diamonds in Botswana. And guess what? On the records, 80% of the proceeds of the diamonds in Botswana goes to state coffers. And guess what? All of that goes to schools, hospitals, roads, infrastructure.
Okay, I want to hear from Ibrahim and Aya for a second, because, you know, as everybody is speaking, I'm wondering, you're the people who are living in these communities. Why not take these companies and sue them? Why not protest? Why not demand more from your governments?
Honestly, Kono was 100% destroyed during the Civil War.
This was the center of the war.
Yes, of the war, probably for the diamonds. But we've also recovered 80% because of the diamonds, the small mines, and the other things. And we are progressing, we are competing with other places like McKinney, Bo, the America tests.
I can't allow you to continue with your thought, knowing full well that this gentleman standing next to you was forced out of school because he was actually a child in the mines.
Yes, I'm also a victim of what happened there. I was shot in one of those demonstrations.
How can it be that diamonds are suddenly now a blessing when we can see that human rights violations are still occurring, children are still being forced into these sites?
Yes, that makes me my work more relevant. In as much as I was nearly killed in one of those demonstrations, the lawyer can attest. I have my testimonies, and it's all over the world. It's in Al Jazeera and other places also.
Yeah, you were shot during a demonstration.
This kind of situation, do we give up hope? Do we say the diamond should be left? untouched. We have to mine the diamonds.
Let's move to other factors, because there's direct impact and indirect impact. And Mary, I want to hear back from you. The women in these communities, most of them displaced because their land is used for mining, and then they find themselves internally displaced because they can't afford to buy land. They're not allowed to in some cases. Tell me about that.
Really, before this time, women were not allowed to own land. And these land are being regulated by the authorities, chiefs and others. So for the women, as you can see, they are suffering because they cannot have access to lands. And of course, those that are being resettled, they were having backyard gardens in their previous homes. But now, since the resettlement has taken place, those areas that they used to do their backyard garden in order to sustain themselves with their children are no more, in existence. The company never give it to them.
And I want to hear from Benedict, how difficult or easy is it to then take some of these companies to court? Because, if I say I used to have 2 plots and now you've given me a half of what I had, what's the procedure?
That's why we are in court and we are litigating these matters on a no-win, no-fee basis. I mean, they do not have the legal fees to pay. They cannot afford the cost of lawyers to litigate these matters. And on the contrary, the opposing side, the companies, they have tons of diamonds, they have tons of money unaccounted for. So they can peddle it and hire a battery of lawyers within and outside Sierra Leone and contest these matters. And it is not a hidden secret. It is not rocket science to look at the people in Kono and say, hey, mining companies, you have not lived up to your expectations. So I will be challenging the mayors and the district chairman of Kono to come out and challenge their paramount chief and challenge their stakeholders and say, listen, we cannot be put as scapegoats. We are here presiding over a debris. We are here presiding over poverty, yet in the midst of wealth.
And another challenge that comes from mining, of course, you're dealing with ethical minerals, I said earlier. What are some of the implications of these extractive practices, if you can even call them that?
Well, I will say the implications, like if this big company that are coming into the community, like now they use this machines they call excavator. They just mine and they leave the holes like that. Then I believe if they leave it like that, for the future generation, they won't have, like now you measure agriculture, they won't have some yard to do the agriculture because the pit is left open.
Okay, Sulaiman, I like the fact that you're raising your hand because I wanted to ask, what does the NMA say about this?
So we tell them after mining, you will claim the land because after mining, there are other use of land.
So what you're saying is the companies are compelled or they're supposed to? Anyway.
They are supposed
They're
to.
supposed to.
All right. My experience is that the NMA and the EPA are literally doing nothing in terms of preservation and protection of the environment. Because if we look at the pits that
but
are
I
all
do know
around,
that the Protection Agency, to be fair, they've been trying to plant trees. They're doing their best to recover and reclaim some of the land.
we are the trees that they are planting. The trees are not growing. The trees that they are planting are not even looking after the trees. For me, most of the institutions that are manning the affairs of the environment, they are just paying lip service to the people. If you go to Nimekoro Chiefdom, we are one of the biggest gold mines located in Kono district. They have polluted the water sources that is there. The communities are suffering at this point in time. The stream that is there has been polluted as a result of the mining operation. Fishes and other living things that are living in those streams along, the places where these mining operations are being carried out, specifically in Nimekoro Chiefdom, all these things are being destroyed.
Yeah.
So what are they doing in terms of preservation of the environment?
So we've had quite a myriad of challenges related to both large-scale and small-scale mining, particularly in this region. And now I want to find out from my panelists, how do we move forward? As the sun sets down, I want to hear what we can do to change the situation because it's persisted for decades. Mary, you have something to say to me?
All these issues that we have deliberated on, we have a way forward. How could we? The top management has to change their attitude, especially in the area of these mining companies. We are saying the system, the policies that are already in place should be implemented. We should stop saying them. Let's implement it. And of course, regarding women, we have several structures in place. Even these stone crushers, women, we have them as an association. So these structures, if we want to empower them, there are several other ways. Maybe in agriculture, we can bring up agricultural programs, and we subscribe them to that agricultural programs.
So empowering women, creating skills for them, and also diversifying sources of income. All right, Ibrahim, any solutions for me?
Yes, that 10-20% of all proceeds coming from the mine should go to the women and the children.
Okay.
For education, for brilliant students and their community support.
Does anybody else have a solution that we haven't heard yet?
I think the government, central government, must realize and must understand that it is the future of these children that is being put in jeopardy from the mines. And the government has a singular responsibility. If they want to do it, they can do it next tomorrow, or they can even do it today. The excuses, the structural adjustments, the reliance on foreign donors and even IMF is not necessary if they can really utilize the resources that are coming here. And like I said to the NMA gentleman, we don't know what comes there every day. Even if they say they know, they are not publishing it. So how can we claim the 1% or the 3% that is agreed in the first place? How would you calculate 100% all over what?
Right.
Nothing. So the government must be transparent, accountable, and development must not be political issue. Once you are in government, you are government for everybody.
Okay, well, at the beginning of this debate, I asked if the riches that are found largely underground in this country present a curse or not to the economy and the people of this region. What I've heard in a resounding way is that no, they're not. It's simply how they're handled or mishandled. I don't know what your viewpoint is, but thank you for watching.